Hi everyone. This session is setting expectations in remote classrooms. Thanks for joining us today and taking the time to dig into this content. This is the 7th session in our first distance learning PD module, preparing your remote classroom. If you're curious about how all the content fits together and builds on each other, feel free to pause here and read the distance learning course introduction document. Otherwise, let's jump in. This slide represents our priorities across all of the Department of Education. In particular, these professional development trainings are in alignment with our educators' priority. We hope you feel supported by using this resource. The objectives for our time during this session are that we will explain why setting expectations matters. We'll make a master list of the expectations you need to teach for your remote classroom, and you will use a checklist to create a plan to teach those specific expectations. And here is the agenda for how we'll spend the time. Take a minute and look this over. We always want to ensure our professional development resources are supporting teacher growth and development, and we use the team rubric as the anchor for that. This particular session is aligned to both the expectations and the managing student behavior indicators on the rubric. Those indicators are broken down into specific descriptors. First, we have the expectations indicator. Take a minute and read the descriptors that are relevant here. And the second indicator this session is aligned to is the Managing Student Behavior indicator. Take another minute and dig into these descriptors. Okay, let's jump into some self-reflection. You're going to either think or write to yourself. Setting expectations matters because. Pause the video here and take as much time as you want for this. Have you ever had an experience where a supervisor tells you to do something differently, but never told you the way to do it in the first place? I'm guessing after you got the feedback you wondered, why didn't you tell me that at the beginning? This is a similar experience for students in our classrooms when we don't tell them what to expect. It is fair to tell students how you define success. We all want to be in a transparent space where the path to success is clear. Setting expectations for students makes that possible. And let's take it one step further and think about all the uncertainty for kids as they start remote learning. Setting expectations matters even more because kids have very little schema for what is about to happen and for what their learning will look like. They don't know what to expect in a remote classroom, so we have to be extra careful to set those expectations so clearly. This brings us to the key point. I need to set expectations in a remote classroom just like I need to set them in a face-to-face setting. This is how I ensure students are set up for success. But some of those expectations are going to look a little bit different than the ones you set in person. For example, being a respectful listener is something we may expect both in person and in a remote classroom. But what that means will look different because looking at the speaker is different in a remote classroom and raising your hand is different. So the first thing we're going to do is make a master list of all the expectations you want to teach. Then we'll walk through a protocol on how to teach them. Now, to make this master list, we're going to use one of the tools that we created in session 4. This was the remote classroom culture session, where you did the vision and you dug into what your classroom culture vision looks like, sounds like, and feels like. That document is the foundation for us to create this master list of expectations. So if you don't have that accessible right now, go ahead and pause your video and get that document. I'm going to reference my sample document as we create this master list of expectations. My sample document looks like this, and you can get it by pausing and scrolling down here. We loaded it as a tool in this session as well. I'm going to start with these looks like indicators and then break them down into specific expectations I need to teach. For example, the first looks like indicator is students keeping their remote schedules. I need to think about, what do I have to teach students to ensure that this happens? Well, I have to teach them what their schedules are. The next indicator is students completing and submitting work on time. So again, I ask myself, okay, what do I need to teach them to make this happen? I have to teach them how to submit their work on whatever learning management system I'm using. My last example is that I want active participation across all required tasks and platforms. And if that's something I need as a part of my classroom culture vision, what do I have to teach? Well, I have to teach them what this participation means and what it looks like on video lessons, on discussion boards, on phone calls, including what does it mean to be a respectful listener? Okay, you get the idea. In just a minute, you're going to pause the video, look at your own remote classroom culture vision document, and make your own master list of expectations. This time is yours. Go ahead and pause and take as much time as you need to get your comprehensive list of expectations that you need to teach in your remote classroom. All right, now that you have your list, the next step is to make a plan to teach those expectations. Here are the steps that tons of research tells us are most effective for teaching expectations. You first name it. Name and describe what the expectation looks like and sounds like in action. Then you model it. You explicitly do a model of that expectation successfully. You narrate it. You have students notice and narrate the specifics of the expectation during a teacher model or other students modeling. You have students practice the expectation, and then of course you reinforce it. You notice when students are doing it successfully, and you name what specifically they are doing and the impact that it has. In just a second, you'll pause the video and scroll down on the page to the next resource. It looks like this. Successfully setting remote expectations. On this resource, you'll see the same checklist that we just talked through, but it also includes a sample expectation that I broke down, and then a template that you can use to break down your own expectations. I also included an additional resource with 3 more examples of expectations for remote classrooms. Feel free to use these as they are if they align with your vision, or edit them in any way to suit your needs. Okay, this time is yours. Pause the video, use the Setting Remote Expectations checklist and template, and go for it. Plan your own expectations. Take as much time as you need to do this well. As we close out this session, it's so important to note that thinking through every remote expectation and planning them in this level of detail will ensure your remote classroom is set up to run smoothly, and it will ease student anxiety since they don't know what to expect this school year and make them more successful. Let's review what we accomplished during this time. We dug into why expectations matter. We created a master list of the expectations you want to teach, And we use the checklist to plan how to teach those specific expectations. Thank you so much for taking the time to dig in and to push yourself and participate in this session. Your work matters so much, and setting kids up for success is one of the most important things you can do to have a strong start to this remote classroom.